BBC Radio Bristol.
John Darvall.
2 weeks today, all the campaigning for the local elections will be over and you get to use your special voting pencil or pen. Everyone gets a vote for our Police and Crime Commissioner for Avon and Somerset. The post was created in 2012, has been held by Sue Mount-Stevens, who was elected again in 2016. She is standing down, so there will be a new PCC, Police and Crime Commissioner. Avon and Somerset Police serve our 4 council areas along with the county of Somerset. That's some 1,844 square miles, diverse and challenging, from Bristol, Bath, Taunton, Yeovil, all with their own challenges. Rural crime, street crime, county lines, violence, protests, your bike being nicked, the fear of crime not being the reality of crime. It is the Chief Constable who is accountable to the law for exercising of police powers. And it is the PCC, the Police and Crime Commissioner, who is accountable to you, the voter, the resident in Avon and Somerset's Force area, for the delivery of efficient and effective policing. Whoever gets elected, they will get paid £86,700 a year. They can appoint a deputy. They get a budget of £5 million to run their office. The only female candidate is the Green candidate for PCC, Police and Crime Commissioner, a former Lord Mayor of Bristol, Green councillor for Cotton Ward at Bristol City Council, activist, campaigner, actress, Cleo, who joins us for her appearance on the programme. Cleo, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John. And should I start by saying that we also have Heather Shearer for the
You do. You're absolutely right. And when I read that out, I thought I need to change that, but too late. Let's start with you and who you are, because there'll be people who know you, Cleo, and people who don't. So who are you?
I'm Cleo Lake. I'm still in my last couple of weeks as an elected councillor in Bristol. I was elected in 2016. During that time, I've also sat on various external bodies, including Destination Bristol at the time and Bristol Cultural Development Partnership. I was also the chair of the Downs Committee when I was the Lord Mayor of Bristol 2018 to 2019, the first Green Lord Mayor. That also included, as some people may or may not know, chairing full council, which the feedback I had from that was really good, particularly in relation to how I facilitated the public gallery. During my term as an elected councillor, I've also been on the Avon Fire Authority since 2017. I chair what is now the People and Culture Committee, but was the Diversity, Inclusion, Cohesion and Equalities Committee, and I've chaired it since its inception in 2017. I've also got a background in the arts. I was the chair of St Paul's Carnival 2012 to 2015, Arts and Events Manager for Stapleton Road, and I have a dance and theatre practice as well. And I like to use the arts to engage communities.
Are you standing again as a councillor as well, or are you just standing for the role of Police and Crime Commissioner?
Just PCC.
Okay, just PCC. Got it. If you get the job, all the other things that you've been doing, you're not going to be able to do. I'm just curious about you, because you're a dancer and you're an activist. So where does the politics come from? Where does the activism and the campaigning come from, Cleo?
It comes from my childhood and my upbringing in terms of being very much aware of social injustice locally and in the world, and just how my mum brought me up and my father as well. So, and my schooling, I think a lot of it comes down to going to school at Easton Road Primary in the 80s, which was a fantastic experience, and we really did have some really great teachers there who really nurtured us as a cohort. We were very, very advanced for our age, very inquisitive, and we loved school. And I think that's shown throughout my academic career as I went on to go to what was Colston Girls' School, now Montpellier High.
So let's going into the actual role itself. I mean, for those who may know you in Bristol will know your credentials, but outside the city of Bristol, you're not so well known. So what qualifies you to be a Police and Crime Commissioner for somewhere like Nailsea or Portishead or Taunton or Yeovil, beyond the bounds of Bristol?
Good question. And interestingly, as I've said in my introduction there, I have been on the Avon Fire Authority since 2017, and that is wider than Bristol. It is the old Avon area. So I've worked with colleagues from places like Weston and Nels, and indeed the headquarters during that time had moved to Portishead, so it shares the building with the police headquarters. So, obviously before COVID, that's where we were going for our meetings. So it's been a great experience to work with colleagues from different parties and different geographical areas, which has given me a good insight into different communities. And of course, we have to scrutinise and overview and monitor the plan for Avon Fire and Rescue. So, that's wide ranging. And that covers past Bristol. So I do have that experience. Equally, I do have friends, family and professional contacts across the region.
We're gonna hear your 1 minute manifesto before the end of this part, and then we'll talk more in detail after we've heard a song from Dua Lipa about that. But the devil's always in the detail, Cleo, as you know. But this is a big job. I mentioned, not least of which it comes with a salary and a budget and all the other bells and whistles. It's a big job that a lot of people don't get. 26% of people in 2016 voted, and I've said this to all the candidates, and I'll say it to the other candidate tomorrow. Everyone says law and order is the most important thing, yet 74% of people didn't vote for the voice of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's maybe interesting to note the transition to PCC from what would have been a police authority, like Avon Fire Authority, if you like, which would have been more representative, and you would have had more elected councillors on there, and they should be that conduit between information with citizens, residents, and the police. So to have it condensed into one person doesn't satisfy a lot of people, but that's what we have for now. And I think a big part of the job is promoting the role, and I think I can really draw on my experience and strengths of having been the Lord Mayor of Bristol, that outreaching face of, if you like, to be approachable as well, and as I've said, promote the role so that people understand that this is the role that holds police to account, and if you like, is the voice of communities. So that's why my slogan is with communities for communities.
Just on that, there was a time where the Green Party didn't buy into PCCs. That position's now changed with you. Cleo?
Sorry, my internet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I think I got the gist of the question.
Okay, there was a time where the Green Party didn't buy into it. Just a quick answer on that, because I want your minute manifesto. That position's now changed with you.
Well, yeah, I think it's an incredibly important position. It's a very important time. So, yeah, I think whilst sections of the Green Party might not subscribe to certain roles, they didn't subscribe to Lord Mayor. We had a debate whether we'd even have a Lord Mayor. But I think we've all decided that it was worth doing.
Okay, let's have your minute manifesto. It is a minute. It'll be ended by me going, because we haven't got a budget for sound effects. So, Cleo Lake, because we haven't. Cleo Lake, for the Green Party, the candidate to be the Police and Crime Commissioner. Your minute manifesto, please.
With communities for communities, I will be forward-facing and out and about. That will be my priority, rather than heavily based at the HQ in Portishead. I believe in transparency. I will be instigating systemic and institutional reform, and to help me do that, I will be appointing a deputy with that experience and someone who can also scrutinise budgets. I believe in active democracy, and there will be a mechanism of feeding into the police and crime plan ahead of it being finalised in March next year. I will support the independent advisory groups and set up a regional youth crime panel led by young people. I will also want area commanders to provide a monthly update to the local authority and district areas to understand concerns and to monitor action and progress. I believe in local policing for local communities, centering victims and offering a better service. As I've said, enabling a youth voice, having a preventative approach to crime, and support for police decision making.
Thank you, Cleo. If I cough any more, people are going to start attacking me with swabs. We will take a pause for Dua Lipa, and then we'll explore some of the detail in those policies with the Green candidate for Police and Crime Commissioner, Cleo Lake. One of the local elections, or one constituent of the local elections, 2 weeks today, which is the Police and Crime Commissioner election. There will be a new PCC. It's the third time you have been asked to vote for a Police and Crime Commissioner. Indeed, it was delayed from last year because of COVID. There are 5 candidates standing. We have so far heard from 3 of them. Heather Shearer for the Liberal Democrats, Kerry Barker for Labour, John Smith, the independent candidate, and today it is Cleo Lake, the Green candidate to be PCC. Cleo, we heard your minute manifesto a moment ago. Of course, all of that is going to be dependent on the most important thing that a PCC, a Police and Crime Commissioner, to do, which is appoint a new Chief Constable. So what does that next Chief Constable for Avon and Somerset Police have to be?
It has to be someone who's committed to the internal journey and the development of the cultural reform that I think will be necessary, actually, in terms of seeing some of the changes that I think are really important to happen across the force area, especially when we think of things like disproportionality in terms of stop and search, and this sort of carries over into the criminal justice system generally, with outcomes for people who are of African heritage, if you like, or Asian descent.
Something I've challenged the Chief Constable about, and the current Police and Crime Commissioner, on the last 3 appearances on this programme, which is the high rate of stop and search, not only actually in some parts of Bristol, but some parts of Somerset as well, when you look at the figures in detail.
It actually gets worse as you go out of Bristol.
But that is the issue with that, and this is the counter, and it is a matter of fact, is if you look at the, and I'm not, because I've said this to you before on this programme, I do not use the word BAME. I have not used that word for over a year. It is a terrible word. But the proportion of black and brown ethnicity people in Somerset is 2%. The number of people. So the figures are distorted by that. In Bristol, it is overall 16%. In younger demographics, it's almost a third of people. The problem you've got, Cleo Lake, is representation within that police force, which stands at, well, under 4% at the moment. But if you average it all out, it would be 6%. You've got to get people to join the police, haven't you?
It's been an ongoing challenge. And just to pick up on your point that cuts across race, actually, youth, I think it is important, and particularly through the COVID period, to see how youth are also disproportionately stopped and searched. Yeah. So that is something that cuts across geographically and may have underlying class issues as well. Representation is really important, but so is retention. Representation is in some ways hopeless if the system that people are going into isn't welcoming and isn't at the right place of where it needs to be. I think the police have, as some of us have seen through advertising and other means, they've made a significant effort to try and encourage more diversity amongst the workforce, and it is important. And I hope that me being in the role, whilst my role is community focused, of course it's got a police angle, it's scrutinising the police, but through that supportive scrutiny, it's working with the police. And I hope that would also give some confidence to other sections of our communities to feel that perhaps it is a safer space to apply to come on board, because we do need them.
Now, you have to, if you were elected, and there are 5 candidates up for election, if you were elected, you'd have to swear an oath of impartiality. You are a committed Green. We've spoken over the years. Your Green politics is part of your DNA, as it is for other candidates of political parties. So where does politics fit into the role of a police force and a PCC, which is politically neutral?
I think through the campaign, and indeed once I get there, it's about having that support. I want it to be a very active and forward-facing role. I want to be able to put blog posts and social media and articles and opinion pieces out quite regularly. And sometimes you just need to kind of run it past a team. Obviously, there is already a now established team within the office of PCC, which is great. Obviously, there's going to be some new recruitment, but we also have that experience from the past 2 terms, which they've built up because it was a new role. So they've had to learn a lot. So I think, politics, in some ways, I'm fortunate that I'm with the Greens, because we are not what we call, in inverted commas, whipped. We have an element of the ability to have an individual view. We're not pushed one way or the other, which I think has its bonus. And as you know, the independent candidate said, well, he's independent and he won't be bullied or dictated to by Westminster. Well, if anybody sees Caroline Lucas as someone who's going to bully or dictate to me, I think that's quite a funny thing. Funny consideration.
Fair comment. We've got a couple of minutes left. There's a couple of things I want to deal with quite importantly. Should our police have handled the protests in Bristol recently differently?
Yes. Do you want me to elaborate on that?
I'll say how. How, Cleo? How?
Well, what I've said, John, is that, you know, at the time and now, and I said that if I was elected, I called for an independent inquiry. And what I actually mean by an independent inquiry, and let's hear it from the police's perspective. Let's hear it from protesters' perspective. What I am clear on is that no doubt it would be a traumatic experience on both sides. And I think we have to come together now and to look at it in the round and see it's not just about lessons learned, but it's about how we're going to do things differently next time. We've seen a change now in the policing of the protests.
Would that be beyond?
COVID have an impact.
Would that be beyond Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary? So it would be outside of that. You'd want
Absolutely.
Okay, right.
Would
Okay.
be. It would be utilising what already exists, but also adding new elements to it. And I think there will be a place to revive the Ethics Committee, which, you know, that exists to support police officers and staff in considering difficult ethical dilemmas and decision making. But I think that should be widened out to include more citizens as well, so that we can have a healthy debate on the important issue of the day, which will inform policy and which will go back to my idea of active democracy.
Okay. Last question, and I think all police and crime, whoever's elected police and crime commissioner on the 6th of May, 2 weeks today, will be defined by who will be the next chief constable, because that's going to define it. Yeah. You are going to be obviously responsible to the electorate. And what will be your priority, your first main policing priority as PCC?
Well, the job is important to get the right chief constable on board, and that isn't just going through the usual channels. That's being very clear on what you want and actively trying to find that and encourage people to apply. And as I've also said, for me, it's really important that communities and citizens have a way of feeding in to what will be the police and crime plan that will need to be finalised by next March. It's important that people have a say before that's finalised.
And that
so the outreach work to me is key.
And that police and crime plan, obviously, the current one runs out. I mean, and because of course it was designed to run in terms of the term of the PCC, and we are in a delayed election because it should have happened last year. It's happening this year. Just so I'm absolutely clear, just so the listener is clear, the key priority, very simply, clearly, for you as PCC is?
Is a better sense of consensus between police and communities, that communities feel heard, whether that's in Bristol or whether that's in the rural environment where people feel that it's not even worth reporting a crime at the moment because they feel there's so little emphasis that it won't even be followed up. The priority also has to be systemic reform that goes beyond race. My question always when we're monitoring cultural journeys is, well, how does a white male police officer talk to another white male police officer, particularly when they're of different ranks? We need to see where we are. Are there cases of bullying? We need to be mindful of having a healthy, modern day, able to respond to things like cybercrime and all the different challenges coming towards us, listening to residents. If cycling is important, it is important. That needs to be enforced, and all of these things to give confidence across the region and to work together. Nothing
Cleo,
changes until it changes. I'm here to bring change.
Cleo Lake, your internet has held up for the last half hour, which is good.
Good.
Lucky, good for you. Cleo Lake, Green candidate for Police and Crime Commissioner, thank you for being on the programme.
Thank you, John.
And we will see what we will see in a couple of weeks. Cleo Lake there for the Green Party.